Welcome to the Focus Daily TV show. Here on Focus Daily TV, we speak about the truth. We speak about biblical prophecy. And we speak about America and its history and how it relates to biblical prophecy. How the Bible itself is actually the story of America, not some third world country in the Middle East, some fake Israel state that was created in 1948. No, right here in America is where the Bible took place, and specifically the Afro-Americans and how they are truly indeed Israel and Jerusalem spoke about in the Bible. This week we've been speaking about the 10 square miles that is commonly known as DC and how it is actually just a legal fiction, a fake fictitious state with authority that doesn't truly belong to it. We watch short videos and I react to them and we see if we can draw the truth about those videos. So today we shall continue. 10 square miles. Let's go.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Let's Teach channel where we research interesting facts and share information on just about any topic. In a previous video, I explained how the 5 boroughs of New York got their names. If you're interested in learning more about that topic, then be sure to check that video out. In this video, I'll answer the question, why isn't Washington, D.C. a state? Let's get started. Arguably,
before we get started, as always, all you have to do is just pay attention. And if the Lord has blessed you with discernment, the truth shall be seen and heard. Let's go.
One of the most common misconceptions that non-Americans have about the United States involves Washington, D.C. Many believe that the country's capital is a state, but this is actually far from the truth. So why exactly is Washington, D.C. not a state? The blame lies with America's founding fathers, who believed that the nation's center of government shouldn't be a state. It's important to note that Washington, D.C. wasn't the original.
So basically what we're going to be, what the video is discussing is the formation of what is known as the capital. And according to constitutional bylaws, those who reside and work within the capital system only has power over that 10 square miles. So how is it that the government determines the fate of America as a whole? That's the question. Let's find answers.
Original capital. In fact, George Washington, the first president of the United States, took office in New York City before moving the entire seat of government to Philadelphia, where it remained for at least a decade. However, in the late 18th century, Alexander Hamilton proposed several economic policies that empowered those who were in the country's budding financial and banking industries. Most of them lived in the North, which meant that there was a
That's important that they pointed out the financial and banking industry because they play a big role in the deception that has been perpetrated upon God's children and people in the world in general. The ideological subversion that has convinced the people that DC and the Senate, Congress, bicameral system actually has authority, when truly indeed, once again, it is just a legal fiction.
Chance that the nation
check out my previous video for more on legal fictions and how it applied to government entities and also how it applies to individuals.
Power and wealth would be concentrated there. Naturally, many perceived that empowered those who were in the country's budding financial and banking industries. Most of them lived in the North, which meant that there was a chance that the nation's power and wealth would be concentrated there. Naturally, many perceived this to be unfair. As a compromise, the capital was shifted and moved more physically south to appease Thomas Jefferson and the southern states. With this deal, fears that the United States would be controlled by the North were assuaged. While the southern states were appeased,
they should have been worried about these banking institutes, these corporations. But more on that later.
The rest of
and previously, if you go back, check out my previous videos.
The founding fathers weren't. For them, placing the state of government in a permanent location would give that particular state too much power. power that, they claimed, could be unfairly used and exploited. Because of this, they wrote into Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17 of the Constitution that, and I quote, "The Congress shall have power to exercise executive legislation in all cases whatsoever over such district, not exceeding 10 miles square, as may by session of particular."
So power in that district, said district, not exceeding that 10 square miles. So anything outside that 10 square miles is out of their authority. So once again, the question is, how do they control this corporate nation as a whole? How did they get to the point where they determine what occurs nationally?
States and the acceptance of Congress become the seat of government of the United States. End quote. In the simplest of terms, this stipulation meant that the 6,400-acre seat of government would come from land ceded by the surrounding states, so that this specific spot,
64 square acres, 6,400 square acres, excuse me, the limit to their authority,
would be independent of them. With Hamilton and Jefferson's compromise in mind, Washington decided that the country's capital would be located in a place that bordered the Potomac River. Northern Maryland and Southern Virginia both ceded land, and in 1790, Washington, D.C. was born. Basically, if Washington...
But in actuality, God gave his permission for them to have that authority to build this 6,400 square mile area in order to bring about peace in the land with a less chance for war and destruction.
D.C. becomes a state, then it would be a direct violation of what is laid out in the United States Constitution. Now let's talk about Washington, D.C.'s fight for statehood. This whole Constitution thing hasn't stopped people from fighting to declare Washington.
Well, that's really it for today. We're coming upon the end of this second season of Focus Daily TV. The first season being on my second channel, Focus Daily Show, where we go more in depth into historical events that occurred, the Holocaust that occurred, and the murder, the robbery that occurred to God's children, Israel, Jerusalem. Over here on Focus Daily TV, we're mainly dealing with the law and how God's children became bondmen and bondwomen, as spoke about in Deuteronomy. But until next time, hit that like button, subscribe, support the channel, #Focus Daily TV,